Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning, the week after, as it were. I'm Seth Merrow in the studio. Thanks for joining us. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Matt Dinerman. Really nice stakes card today down at Monmouth Park. We're going to cover some of those stakes with Matt. But again, as it is the week after, and we've done it all throughout the Triple Crown, pick the brain of somebody who was at the Triple Crown races a week later to kind of recap things. And this week, our friend Bob Ehalt covering New York racing for the Bloodhorse, and he was up in the press box all weekend long and talked to all the major players and whatnot. So I thought we'd reach out to Bob and get some of his thoughts. Belmont at Saratoga. Bob, good morning.
Morning, Seth. Pleasure to talk it again, and it was kind of nice to see you in June at Saratoga.
Exactly.
New experience.
It was very different. Give me, just before we get into some specifics, give me just overall, and I will tell you, just bouncing around town this past week, the locals are giving it big thumbs up. I was at the concert to kick it off on Wednesday night, Blues Traveler on Broadway. That was jam-packed and was like a perfect summer evening, even though it was springtime. And so that was a great way to kick things off. I think the racing lived up to what we've had earlier in the Triple Crown, big weekend Derby weekend and a big weekend Preakness weekend with undercard stakes and whatnot. I think that continued last weekend. But what were your overall impressions of Belmont at Saratoga?
So I don't think I could say I'm surprised if anyone's surprised with that magic success. I mean, it was a marriage made in heaven, the Triple Crown in Saratoga. Certainly, the racing was phenomenal. There was some, you had some typical Saratoga champions getting beat. You had some champions some horses who showed themselves to be future champions. It was great racing. The town was electric. The horseman was really into it and enjoying it. I thought the experience on Belmont Day was really, I don't think I've ever seen that track that crowded, even for Faro. I mean, I might have to go way back into my 40 years ago to kind of remember some of the crowds a little bigger than that. But I just thought it was a smashing success. People, it's going to be fun next year. The point, and I think people should enjoy it because you do know the reality of the situation. Naira did not get a $455 million loan to rebuild Belmont Park and hold the Belmont Stakes upstate. So the clock is ticking. As soon as Belmont is ready and open, it will go back to New York. But, we got at least one more year, and let's have some fun. I thought it was just a great experience.
I totally agree. And again, looking forward to it next year. But as you say, and traditionally the mile and a half and whatnot, and you make a great point, didn't get all that money to not run the big race down there in the future. So a couple of years. And the game plan, correct, is still, we're here next year. And they're talking about the facility won't be really ready until late in 2026. But there's going to be enough there that they're going to work it out in 2026 is currently the game plan.
It is, but if you're talking about construction, I would not lock it in stone and say it's sure. They haven't reached a point yet in the construction where they can honestly say we will definitely be open in the spring of 26. They still have not. They still might. It's kind of up in the air. There's certain parts of the construction that they have to finish. And when they do, or should I say, the deconstruction and rebuilding, and then they will be able to have a better feel. That's a couple of months. That's a bit off. So, they do want to try to be open. They're saying the stated goal is still 2026. But let me put it to you this way. If you have a 3/4 completed Belmont Park, why would you have a Belmont Stakes there when you see what you could have at Saratoga?
Yeah, good point.
I mean, the point I asked Dave O'Rourke about it, and he said in a story I did, he said, as long as there is a racetrack ready facility downstate, that's where it will be. So that's kind of like a way of saying, when we're finished, there it moves back permanently. When we finish, let's as I say, as optimistic as they are about being done for 26, I don't think anybody can really feel secure until you get a little further along in the process.
And you alluded to it, talking to David O'Rourke, the head of NYRA for the Bloodhorse. Give me the NYRA impressions. I'm assuming, that if watching social media and just walking around the facility on Belmont Stakes Day, there were some lines at the concession stands. More importantly, there were some lines at the restrooms. That can be tweaked, though, and I'm assuming that'll be the game plan for next year to build off of what was learned this year. But I think they have to be over the moon with the results from this past weekend.
Yeah, they were definitely very, very happy. I mean, I think the handle was something like, for 4 days, $197 million. The attendance was way above what they would get at Belmont Park on a typical Belmont like this one without a Triple Crown. I mean, you could certainly have those numbers thrown off when you get 100,000 at a Belmont Stakes. But, like the crowd, if they got 3,000 or 4,000 people, shall we say, on a Thursday of Belmont Stakes week, they got 22,000. I mean, you could just see it. It really, they were just ecstatic. The tickets were all sold, so they knew there was going to be a big crowd, and certainly it did live up to expectations. Like he said, I think Dave said, it was the power of the brand. People knew it was Saratoga. They came out and they bet with both hands, and as I say, well, let's not forget, this is not an easy task for NYRA. I mean, to take a whole operation, move it, what are we talking, 150 miles upstate for 4 days of racing, shut it down, and you were back racing yesterday. That is a gargantuan undertaking. It helps that they can keep some stuff up there for the summer meet, because, before it's long, in about a month, we're going to be back up at Saratoga. But it was a huge undertaking. It was a pretty exhausting undertaking for all the people at NYRA. But I think for them, it was well worth it. Yeah,
that's a great point. I mean, I did years ago, working for a small television production company. We did a little feature on the move and all the equipment. And we kind of ran around the facility for much of the day before opening day, when back then there was the quick turnaround. And I don't think people realize what goes into how much equipment goes back and forth and files and whatnot. And so to do it for just a short period like that, it was certainly notable. All right, let's get to the race itself, the Belmont Stakes. We're going to watch the stretch run here. Dornoch will be the winner. Mindframe, who to me was kind of the real puzzle in the race. Mindframe, the 10, runs second. Sierra Leone runs third. Anna Marie fourth in here. Give us some of your impressions. And I mean, I think one of the main impressions is it just continued a 3-year-old season that's kind of up in the air. Now 3 different winners of the 3-year-old Triple Crown races. But Dornoch, nice win here. Danny Gargan, Randy Hill, we had him on TV on Sunday morning. They had some confidence, and the horse lived up to it. I think having Jason Worth in the winner's circle and saying all the right things was a bonus as well. Your impressions of Dornoch and the victory in the Belmont?
Well, I did a story with Danny, I believe on Wednesday or Thursday of the week. I went to see him at the barn. The day before, Wayne Lucas had told me, I asked Wayne, I think it was Tuesday and then Wednesday, because Tuesday I talked to Wayne Lucas. And asked him, well, you got the rail, what are you going to do? And Wayne said, well, I don't have to go to the rail. Now, this is off a horse who had the rail in the Belmont, and it just won the Preakness wire to wire. So I talked to Danny, how do you see the race? And he basically laid it out exactly. He said, oh, no, that's trainer speak from Wayne. He's going to the front. I'm probably going to go second, and Mindframe will be third behind me. And that's how it played out. And Wayne's horse, it was a bit far for him, and probably coming back on the 3 weeks after. It was actually his third race in 5 weeks, because he did run on Derby Day. He tired, and Dornoch was there. And Dornoch, when he runs his A game, he's a tough horse. I mean, it looked, you go back, he ran a heck of a great race in the Remsen. And when he fires, he's a tough horse to catch, and he dug in. It was impressive. Now the point is he going to be able to sustain this? I mean, Danny originally was talking about, I'm going to just rest him and run in the Travers. Now this talk, maybe Jim Dandy, maybe Haskell. We'll see. But that's the key part with these horses, showing us that consistency. I mean, there have been a couple of good performances. Certainly Sierra Leone before the Triple Crown was looking really good. And you got to give credit to Mystic Dan, who won the Derby, was second in the Preakness. That's nice. I mean, he had a little mucus and really didn't fire in the Belmont. But certainly Dornoch, it looks like that was the Dornoch that we saw back in the Remsen, and when people thought he was a very, very legitimate Triple Crown contender.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you agree from what you were saying. At this point, I did a seminar, and I looked going into the week. I looked at the prep races, included the Derby and the Preakness, and of 25 3-year-old races, points races, and the Derby and the Preakness, there were 21 different winners. So going into the Belmont, there were 4 horses who had doubled up. Encino was one of them, Catching Freedom. They weren't there last weekend, but Mystic Dan and Sierra Leone had doubled up a little bit. Now Dornoch adds to that with the Fountain of Youth and the Belmont Stakes. But I think at this point in the season, it has been just a 3-year-old crop that is ill-defined, but hopefully that sets us up for a fun summer with, Haskell, Jim Dandy, Travers, Pennsylvania Derby, maybe sorting things out.
Yeah, it definitely will. I mean, that seems to happen a lot. I mean, Todd Fletcher said on Sunday, basically the voters don't seem to care about anything that happens. That doesn't happen until October and November. Breeders' Cup is going to be a very big race to maybe see that. But, if somebody could show some consistency and a couple of wins out of that group, like you say, the Haskell, the Jim Dandy, the Travers, the Pennsylvania Derby, the horse I think who shows the most consistency in those races will probably be the 3-year-old champion. Unless it's maybe some horse we don't even know about right now. And then people might be a little skeptical if a horse who went the whole year was like second in some of those races. But yeah, it's going to happen again. I mean, this is the 6th straight year that we haven't had a dual classic winner. And, it's going to be, we had that in the past and we'll see. Like you don't have to go back that far to see a horse like, say, Epicenter, who kind of took over when he won the Jim Dandy and the Travers.
Yeah, it's going to make for a fun summer, I think, definitely. Let's go back one day earlier. I'd love your impressions of the Acorn because, hey, maybe the best 3-year-old was the filly. We're going to take a look at the stretch run here and watch Torpedo Anna winning the Acorn. She has looked good now in 3 straight, the Fantasy, the Kentucky Oaks, and the Acorn. It seemed like, and being a Kenny McPeak trainee, it seemed like, we might look for her against the boys this summer. But now I'm getting the feeling that Kenny's kind of feeling like maybe if I run the table, doing Coaching Club American Oaks and Alabama and the Breeders' Cup Distaff, maybe I have a horse of the year here. So I'm curious as to how the summer's going to play out for Torpedo Anna. But boy, she has looked great so far, including the Acorn last Friday.
Yeah, I asked Kenny that on Sunday morning, would you take the Haskell? Because the Haskell would seem to be a race really tailor-made for her. It's probably going to be a 7-8 horse field, very speed favoring track at Monmouth. I mean, one problem might be there that you could, if she's fast. There's talk, Fierceness is being pointed toward that race. He's fast. Maybe Booth comes back. He's got speed. So, that might be a tough assignment. I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see some sort of lateral called where you can maybe he is saying he's going to go to the Coaching Club American Oaks, which I believe is the second weekend up there. I believe it's the same day as the Haskell, the 20th. So I wouldn't be surprised if some other horses don't really fill in for the Haskell. Maybe Kenny gets the idea to go, but. Certainly it looks like it's going to be Coaching Club Oaks, Alabama, maybe a prep race somewhere, and then the Breeders' Cup. So, I think that would be the kind of campaign for her. But boy, she looked electric. That was a really impressive race. I mean, I did kind of like Just FYI. I thought she was a horse that was moving forward. I thought she'd benefit from the yoke. I'm not sure about the strategy of booking that horse, but that was kind of like one of those old, that was a little bit of like almost secretariated sham, where, that's why Just FYI went out and said, hey, catch me if you can. Let's go, you and me on the front. And she wasn't up to the task. She was a tired horse in the stretch. And boy, Torpedo Anna was really looking strong in the stretch, and very impressive performance. And yeah, I for 3-year-old filly, she could. I think she could be the horse of the year. People might want to see her though run against males to do that, depending on who's out there.
Yeah, it's just it's going to be interesting to see what Kenny does choose to do this summer with her and how it shakes out. But yeah, it's a little ill-defined on the 3-year-old male side, not on the 3-year-old female side. She's going to be fun wherever they choose to go this summer. I wanted to get some thoughts on a couple of other impressive performances because, again, I just think that the whole Triple Crown season this year has been great. Not just the 3-year-old fillies and the males, but the undercard stakes, which, again, are going to play into stakes performances this summer for us as well. Sunday morning had Clark Brewster on with us on television talking about Cogburn. Again, one of the spectacular performances from the weekend. We're going to take a look at the stretch run here to the Jaipur. Cogburn will be the number 8 horse, not hard to pick out with the track record. And I believe somebody wrote on Twitter, maybe world record performance, but the 5.5 furlongs in 59 and shade, 5.5 in under a minute. This was just an incredibly impressive performance by Cogburn.
Yeah, it really was. I think, over in Europe, they don't really get the fast times on the sprint. So I think some people were talking about maybe trying to find out if, like in Australia, where they do a lot of turf sprints, maybe somebody had topped that. But and certainly in New York, you kind of wonder, was it a timer malfunction? But it does seem to be it seems legit. He certainly won powerfully, really, very exciting horse. The shame is you don't have a lot of opportunities for a turf sprinter. So we're not going to get to see him in like some really front row big stage type races. But certainly that was dynamic what he did, and certainly just added to the thrills of the weekend.
Yeah, and wanted to talk about one more because you had written a recap in the Bloodhorse, the Woody Stevens. Always fun, the Woody Stevens, on the undercard of the big day, typically for the 3-year-old sprinters. I was completely intrigued to see what Bookham Dano could do off the heartbreaker in Saudi Arabia, where he just gets caught in the shadow of the wire by the very talented Forever Young, who, if we're talking the 3-year-old scene, it's unfortunate that he had to go back to Japan. He would have been fun to watch through this season as well. But again, Bookham Dano in Saudi Arabia, just caught by Forever Young, hadn't been seen since. I was very intrigued, and Bookham Dano looked very good. We'll watch the stretch run of the Woody Stevens. Bookham Dano, the number 1 horse here. And again, gets it done. The Jersey bred, one of the additional very impressive performances on the weekend. Your thoughts on Bookham Dano?
Really a great effort by him. It was exciting at the end. Prince of Monaco coming at him, making it exciting in the end. But boy, he's a heck of a nice little horse. I mean, he's a Jersey bred. I mean, when was the last time, looking around to try to find Jersey breds winning Grade 1 stakes, you just don't see it that often. But this is a really game, speedy little horse. I thought Derek Ryan's done a superb job with him. A lot of times, I mean, I think when you looked at the race in Saudi, you said to yourself, the turn back to the 7 furlongs really suits him, all this stuff. But a lot of horses go over there overseas and don't come back the same horse. In fact, you got to give Ryan a lot of credit for getting the horse in that kind of shape off the race in Saudi. And certainly it'll be interesting to see again where we go with him. Does he maybe go to the Amsterdam, which seems to be the logical prep form, or do you just wait for the Alan Jerkins, another Grade 1 back on Travers Day? I guess we'll see how he comes out, what the connections want. But again, he's another type of horse who, he'll be in undercard type races, but certainly is a very exciting prospect. And I do hope, I know he I imagine there might be some thought. He ran pretty well over in Saudi. Maybe you try him in the Haskell, but I think it'd be good to kind of keep him down to the sprint distances that he's really doing well at. And I tell you what, he might be somebody who could win the Breeders' Cup class, Breeders' Cup sprint. So, I would kind of keep him in that category and really give him every opportunity to try to be to maybe win an Eclipse Award.
I agree. I think it's tempting when you have a good 3-year-old to try outside the box a little bit, but boy, it seems to have found his calling, and we'll see what the summer holds, but it's looked good so far. Bob, I'm curious. I know on big days you sometimes go down and cover Monmouth. You going to be at Monmouth today, or are you in New York? Or
no, I'm heading out to. I'm staying on the New York circuit. I'm heading out to Aqueduct. I'll cover the Bed of Roses. I'll be out at. I will though be back at. I'm planning to be back in Monmouth for the Haskell. As I say, I think I always Monmouth is one of my favorite tracks. I really like it. It's summer. It's nice. The people there are. It's really, I think, run very well. It's got some really good people behind it. And, I certainly recommend to people, you want a nice day out at the Jersey Shore, go visit Monmouth. It's a fun track.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier.
And I'm sorry, but you could also do the fixed odds wagering. So you could kind of see what it's like to actually bet on a horse and get the odds that you bet.
I'd forgotten about that, but that's a great point. If you go down, you can try that fixed odds. I mentioned earlier, Brian Skirka does a great job with the contest down there. And I always recommend for folks who haven't tried contest play, jump in. But throughout the season down there, they have seats to the NHC and the BCBC. So if folks are thinking, hey, maybe I'll make the trip down to Monmouth, look at the contest schedule, and maybe you can tie things up. I haven't been down. I would love to get down to Monmouth. I'm envious and would love to get down because of all the good things I hear about it. But Bob, we appreciate your coverage of the New York side of things. So we'll look for coverage Bed of Roses in the Bloodhorse coming up a little bit later on and into tomorrow. We appreciate your thoughts on Belmont at Saratoga. It was great to see you last week, and we'll see you again in about 3, I guess.
Very good, Seth. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. Bob Ehalt, again, covering New York racing for the Bloodhorse. Let's take a quick break. Actually, it may make more sense if I just hit my news. I have a couple of news items that I can hit here. Yeah, and then we'll go to a break and bring Matt on. That's probably even a little bit better. First of all, do want to remind you again, the crazy weather down at Gulfstream means they canceled Thursday, they canceled Friday, and they've canceled today. Now, there was supposed to be a mandatory payout in the Pick 6 today. That will be rescheduled. Out of an abundance, I'm reading the Mike Welch column here, out of abundance of caution due to the heavy rain, they have canceled Saturday's program. But the Rainbow Six mandatory will be scheduled at a later date. So keep your ear to the ground as far as that is concerned for Gulfstream. And still waiting to hear. I haven't heard anything as far as tomorrow, but you would think with the weather, tomorrow might be a little bit dicey as well. But we'll let you know when we hear updates on that. Coming up. But Gulfstream definitely canceled for today. They announced that yesterday. So another piece of news, a little bit interesting. Frankie Dettori going to be based at Saratoga this summer. So get ready for the flying dismount. I would say not all of it. I feel for him because there was the race at Keeneland this spring, and we were watching the simulcast, and you could hear he comes into the winner's circle excuse me, at Keeneland, and there's a whole group of people around the winner's circle, and he just got off the horse in his regular, and there was a whole boo, and so he's kind of obligated to do that flying dismount, but that's got to be rough on the knees. That jumping off the horse, you're 10 feet in the air, you land. So I feel for the guy, but I'm sure we'll get a couple at least flying dismounts from Frankie Dettori, but going to be calling Saratoga home for the summer. Agent Ron Anderson will be booking his mounts as well as Joel Rosario. Again, looking forward to Frankie up at Saratoga this summer. after having announced retirement last year and did like a retirement tour over in the UK, and then said, you know what, maybe I'll ride the winter at Santa Anita, and had a very successful Santa Anita and bounced around the country. Had that crazy good day at Penn National for Penn Mile Day a couple of weeks ago as well. So again, it'll be fun to have Frankie up in Saratoga. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Matt Dinerman will join us. We'll talk a little Monmouth Stakes action for this Saturday afternoon. Stay tuned. It's been referred to as possibly the best equine-themed gift shop on the planet. Impressions of Saratoga. Impressions of Saratoga, celebrating the Saratoga and equestrian lifestyles. It's your number one choice for Saratoga souvenirs, apparel, and gift shopping. We have gifts for the entire family, and we're pet-friendly too. Visit us online at impressionssaratoga.com or come on down. Impressions of Saratoga, 368 Broadway, downtown Saratoga.
Birdstone is an upset front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
In front, but here comes Hot Chaparral. Hot Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Matt Dinerman from Monmouth Park by way of Oaklawn this winter. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Happy to have you on board. And we talked to you maybe three-quarters, halfway through Oaklawn and talked to you a little bit about that. But with now an entire Oaklawn meet in the rearview mirror, how did your Arkansas season go overall?
It went fantastic, as good as it could have. Just a lovely place with lovely people, very nice community, loves racing. I mean, every day is a party in Hot Springs, especially when the races are going on. So, just a real blessing to be able to be part of the team there. And I'm sure 2024, 2025 is going to be just as special. We're expecting another good meet, and it'll come before we know it. But I had a great time and really enjoyed meeting all the people there and celebrating racing. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, you did a great job. We're up here in the studio in the afternoon doing the handicapping show, watching all the signals. And again, you did a great job down there. And we always enjoy talking to Nancy. So you have a good group down there as well. But then it was subsequently announced Matt Dinerman up at Monmouth Park as well. So now that we're a few weeks into the Monmouth meet, how's that turning out?
It's been great. I mean, the Jersey Shore really reminds me of my home state of California. It's a beach town here. A lot to do, a lot of things to see, a lot of things in the surrounding area. You've got New York an hour away. You've got Pennsylvania an hour away. So it's been great, and the racing has been fun, and especially the turf racing here has really been solid. So beautiful track. Just got on track, actually, as you called me here, and it's a beautiful day, beautiful facility here at Monmouth. I'm just looking at the trees on the paddock now. It's just gorgeous. So it's been a fantastic experience so far.
And Oaklawn, I highly recommend. I've been down there. I have a sister who lives in Northwest Arkansas, so I made a trip south a few years ago and stopped to visit her. And then on the way to Florida, made a stop at Oaklawn and Fairgrounds. And Oaklawn is great for folks up in our area. The community and the track and the mentality is very Saratoga-ish. Folks are really into it. The local community is really into it, so I highly recommend that. I haven't, however, and it's on the list. I haven't been to Monmouth. I'm really looking forward to getting down there at some point because it just looks like a great track, nice summertime track, and I'm all about summer weather. And I mentioned earlier, for folks who want to come down, want to go down, and like me are thinking, hey, I'd love to make a visit. Brian Skirka down there does a great job with the contests, and I always recommend contest play. There are NHC seats available and BC seats. So, folks, I would recommend go check out the the Monmouth Park schedule for contests and maybe make a trip down. But I think it's very fan friendly. You have the fixed wagering odds, and it seems like, as I say, it's on my list. I'm looking forward to it. And it seems like a great place with a great crowd down there and great racing at Monmouth.
It really is. And just like Oaklawn, a lot of people here really love their racing. The state likes their racing. It's an event here in the Jersey Shore. Father's Day tomorrow, we're expecting, last year they had 27,000 people. So we're expecting at least 25 tomorrow, if not a lot more than that. So, just this type of place, you come here and people are at the picnic tables, handicapping, drinking beer, having a good time, barbecuing, and really fun atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm envious, and I'll have to get down myself, but I tell people to put that on the list. Nice little drive down from up here. Matt, before I get to stakes race this afternoon in Monmouth, have to get back to last weekend, because I've said for the last week or so, boy, we saw both sides of horse racing last week. Up here in our area, we were over the moon with Belmont at Saratoga, and it was the excitement level, and it panned out. It was a great weekend of racing, highlighted by Belmont Stakes Day. But on the other coast, it was closing weekend at Golden Gate, and I know that's an old haunt of yours. Give us some thoughts on the closing of Golden Gate.
Well, it's a sad thing. I mean, when you're at a track for as long as I was, and there were a lot of people there that were there a lot longer than I was, you really get to know the community, you become the part of the community, and you want the community to succeed. So definitely a melancholy type of feeling for me here on the East Coast, watching Golden Gate Fields this last day. But we have a lot of people in Northern California who persevere. They're hard workers. They love racing, and they're going to keep fighting to keep racing, as good as it possibly can be, not only in the north, but in the southern region of California as well. I think all of us want racing to succeed no matter what state they're in. So, definitely difficult. But you know what? I have a lot of good memories there, and a lot of other people have a lot of good memories as well from Golden Gate Fields, and they're going to hold that in their hearts. So it's very important.
Yeah, looking at social media last week, as I say, we were looking at both sides of the racing game, and it's sad to see Golden Gate close. But again, California is such an important part of the American racing scene. I hope things work out, as you say, both in the north and the south there. All right, let's get to some action for today at Monmouth. As you say, nice weather, which is great because there's some great turf action, and that'll kick off race number 9 in the Eatontown. I pulled up a replay from May 19th over at Belmont at the Big A. The number 5 here in the replay is going to be No Show Sammy Joe for Graham Motion. Lately raced, but I think they're picking maybe a clever spot to step into stakes company. I'm going to kind of tilt in that direction, but I think Sacred Wish is interesting, Spirit and Glory, tax implications. What are your thoughts on the Eatontown?
The first thought I had looking at the race was there's a lot of speed in it. So I think it'll set up for No Show Sammy Joe. I question what the price is going to be, what the value is there, because a lot of people are picking No Show Sammy Joe, and plenty of people are picking Mama in June. And she's actually my pick. So in terms of running style, I'm sort of in the same direction as you. I feel that maybe a horse from off the pace can get it done. And even though Mama in June, she didn't earn a speed figure last time, and she doesn't seem to have the class, at least at the moment, to indicate that she's the classiest field and classiest runner in the race, nor does she have the speed figure indicate she's fast enough to win. The others come with their best day. I think she's improving. I think there was more in the tank last time, and I like that Chad Brown, who could have run her in a second level allowance, opts to try a stake here. There's going to be some pace, so I think that'll be good. And I'm expecting Mama and June to run a good race. But I made No Show Sammy Joe the second pick. I think those two should be sitting on good efforts, especially with the projected pace.
Yeah, it looks like a fun race. And again, if the morning line holds up, maybe a little value there, but we'll see if the morning line holds. In the 10th, we're looking at the Pegasus. These are 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16th. I went with Tuscan Sky, and I pulled up a replay from the Fairgrounds race February 17th. Short field, but Tuscan Sky gets it done. The number 7 horse here. Now, obviously, disappointment in the Wood Memorial, but I'm going to look for Todd Pletcher to maybe have this one rebound. Domestic product off of the disappointment in the Kentucky Derby. I think that one could rebound for Chad Brown. Hades and Otello. Otello's a horse throughout the career I thought was intriguing. But it's a number of horses in here in the Pegasus this afternoon that are looking to kind of redeem themselves a little bit. What are your thoughts on the Pegasus?
It's a good race. It's a fun race. I think there are a lot of ways to go as you analyze. I'm actually picking the New Jersey bred, Sea Streak. I think, yes, this horse was 55-1 when he finished behind Hades, well behind in a Derby prep at Gulfstream. But I feel that this horse is better than ever. I thought that last race, who he beat, extremely suspect, obviously. This is a much tougher field, but he did it the right way like a good horse. And you can only beat the horses that are up against you, and I thought he did it the right way. Loves this track. His trainer, Eddie Owens Jr., has had a phenomenal meet. He's a very, very sharp horseman. And I just think this horse is going to sit right with Hades and try to run by him from the outside, and I think he's got a shot to do it, especially if he can run back to that last race. So he's going to be the pick Sea Streak, and what I think another very interesting race.
One horse we didn't mention I think is interesting is Uncle Heavy for Butch Reed, who had a couple of nice runners up here, Belmont at Saratoga weekend on the stakes side of things. And Butch Reed this winter has been invading New York and doing very well. He may do it down in New Jersey with Uncle Heavy, and I think you get a price there too.
I think so. I mean, the question is, was that Withers sort of a fluke of a race? I guess that's the question.
Yeah.
He ran over the mud. This is obviously not a wet surface, but obviously they had some expectations for him, and I feel this is definitely the right type of spot to run him in against Stakes Company to maybe try to regain that good form. I think you got a lot of horses that are like that in this race.
Yeah.
Horses that some of them they're bumping up in class and they're trying to see, hey, do I have what it takes to run in a big race like the Haskell? And there are other horses that maybe started off pretty good early, but they've tailed off and their trainers aren't running them against the toughest 3-year-olds, but they're looking to gauge where they're at with these horses. So I think with all of that, that makes for a very contentious race and an interesting handicapping puzzle.
Totally agree. Again, I think there are a bunch of them looking for redemption and kind of step into the big group over the summer moving forward. So a nice Pegasus this afternoon at Monmouth. The Monmouth is race number 11, grade 3 event, mile and an eighth on the grass. I'm going to tilt towards Grand Sonata for Todd Pletcher, but I pulled up a replay of a horse I have right in the mix, Chad Brown's at Hamo for Michael Dubb and Company. And I pulled up the replay, the United Nations 2022. And that was this horse's last victory, but lone start over the Monmouth course and gets the victory in the Grade 1 United Nations. 7 starts since, doesn't have a win, but I think at Hamo's interesting. Running B, Tawny Port. What are your thoughts on the Monmouth?
Another race where there are a lot of ways to go. Unlike the Philly turf stake, there's not a lot of pace in this race. So a lot of people are gravitating towards running B for the Chad Brown barn. You like the other Chad Brown entrant. I think Tawny Port is interesting. I think that I don't know if he's running here. I haven't seen the scratches yet. He's entered at Churchill Downs. He's been working at Belmont. So I really don't know if he's going to run in this race. But if he does, I think he's interesting on the cutback and distance. I think he's more tactical than people might think with not a lot of pace in this race. So I'm going to pick Tawny Port on top. If he's running at Churchill and he scratches, then I'm going to lead towards running B, who could get clear on the lead or be close to a slow pace. So that's who I'm going with.
I like it. All right, race number 12 this afternoon, the Salvatore Mile, another grade 3 event. As the name indicates, a 1-mile trip. I pulled up the replay of right up the street from us, Jockey Club Gold Cup last year. It will be number 8, Bright Future, getting it done. Subsequently ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic and ran 6th behind Way to Barrio. Hasn't been seen since that Breeders' Cup Classic, but it's Todd Pletcher. And again, looking at this Jockey Club Gold Cup, one of 3 triple-digit buyer wins, or three triple buyer efforts to end last season. Cheryl's Spite to me is very interesting in that Roger Atfield elects to come down and try this one from Woodbine. So I find that one intriguing. Artorias, Oscar Eclipse, intriguing as well. Your thoughts on the Salvatore Mile?
I wouldn't blame anybody for trying to beat Bright Future. Not at all. Is he the class of the race? Sure. Is he prepping? Yes. This is not a race that he necessarily needs to win. Obviously, their goal for 2024 with him is not to win the Salvatore Mile. It's to win some bigger races out there later on, and this sets up well for Saratoga, I'd imagine. But On the other side of the coin, I do think he's the class of the race. Is a mile short, maybe a little bit, but he's done okay in the past against Lester. I just think Todd Pletcher will have this horse ready. I think he'll get a good trip off a couple of speed horses in there. I think he's going to get a perfect tracking trip. So I'm not going to try to beat him. I think Bright Future, I'd like to be more creative, but not in this one. I think they'll be pretty tough in there. I just think he's classier than these horses, and Todd is very good off of layoffs. So even though this horse maybe won't be 100% cranked, probably be 85, 90% cranked, and that's good enough, I think, to win this race. I think he just is a better horse, quite frankly.
Yeah, for those 3 triple digits, it's tough to get by, really, as you say. Can maybe go back a little bit and still have the edge here in the seasonal debut. Matt, as always, appreciate the visit. And again, I told you when we talked to you at Oaklawn, being right down the street, so to speak, at this time of the year in Monmouth, on days off, maybe if you make it up to Saratoga, we broadcast live from the backstretch every morning. So if you do head up to Saratoga sometime over the next couple of months, love to have you give us a text, and we'll have you come sit in with us for a segment some morning. But in the meantime, enjoy the racing this afternoon.
Absolutely, Seth. I'm looking to make a trip to Saratoga at some point this week, so maybe we can get that done. But it'll be exciting. We should have a good day. First post 12:50, 12 races today on Haskell Preview Day. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Matt Dinerman from Monmouth Park on a really, really nice stakes day today down at Monmouth. All right, we'll take another break. When we come back, some more news and notes as we wind things up on this Saturday Racing Across America. Stay tuned.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Talked a little bit about it, earlier on the Handicappers Report, but Rich Strike, according to an article in the Racing Forum, is going to be moved to the Belmont barn for training in the coming days. Has not raced since finishing 5th in the Grade 2 Ali Sheba Stakes at Churchill in May of 2023. So has been on the sidelines for over a year. Won the 2022 Kentucky Derby. Went to the sidelines. They had a little ding. They thought, you know what? And they retired him. But there wasn't a lot of interest on the sire side of things. So then they treated him with some stem cell therapy. And now going to head back to the Belmont. We'll see how this plays out. I have to admit, I'm slightly skeptical. I mean, it'd be fun if he comes back and runs and wins. That'll be great. But we'll see. It just seems like a scenario where, they want to take the shot and bring him back and train him, and let's see what happens. But again, I'll take a little bit of a wait and see. But the report is Rich Strike moving into the Belmont barn at some point in the near future. This was kind of interesting. Drayden Van Dyke, both Drayden Van Dyke and Kent DeSormo have taken shots down in South Florida Gulfstream the past few weeks. And it was announced kind of experimentally, but I think both of them have done well enough that you can expect them down at Gulfstream for the foreseeable future. This is from a Mike Welch column. Drayden Van Dyke, a guy who, as was Kent DeSormo, based out in Southern California. But again, with Southern California these days, it's tough with maybe some shorter fields and limited race dates and whatnot. And so I think some of these jocks are kind of looking around and saying, where's better for me? Somebody just made the return. Was it Joe Talamo? Somebody just made a return to Southern California. But Drayden Van Dyke got into the mix with Saffie Joseph and took the shot, as I say, just within the last couple of weeks to go down and try to experiment. Well, the experiment seems to be a success. One with 5 of 9 mounts last weekend down at Gulfstream Park. Could be a pretty good percentage, well over 50%. So Drayden Van Dyke, as I say, likely to kind of stick around. And it looks like that'll be the game plan as well for Kent DeSormo, who also said, kind of experimenting there couple of 3 weeks ago or so, but seems to have run very well since arriving. So I would think they will be new additions to the Gulfstream Park jockey colony, Drayden Van Dyke and Kent DeSormo. And again, the way Drayden Van Dyke has gotten off to a start, maybe worth paying a little bit of attention to. And again, nothing wrong with going to Gulfstream if you get teamed up with Saffie Joseph. I think Edgar Zayas is still Saffie's guy, perhaps, but Drayden Van Dyke will clearly be in the mix off of the early success he's had. Do want to note this. If you've been watching the weather forecast the past few days, we have the Triple H's coming up here in our area, Albany, Saratoga, but I guess it's the entire there's an entire section of the country which will include Finger Lakes. So as we get later into the week, it will be oppressively hot and humid. And because of that, Finger Lakes has changed their post times for the 18th and the 19th. Monday's post time, the 17th, remains the 1:15, the normal 1:15 post time. But this coming Tuesday and Wednesday, in anticipation of that hot weather, they've moved up the post time. So Tuesday and Wednesday at the Finger Lakes, we're going to kick things off in the morning, 11:15 for the post time at Finger Lakes on Tuesday and Wednesday. So again, Monday will be the regular 1:15 post time, but Tuesday and Wednesday at the Finger Lakes, we'll be looking at 11:15 kickoff to try to kind of beat the heat and humidity of the day. Coming up a little bit later today, you may want to pay attention to race number 7 at Belmont at the Big A, because Menti will be in there for Mike Rapoli, Todd Pletcher, and Menti is a full brother to Fierceness. We'll see how it works out this afternoon, whether the bloodlines play through. But again, Menti today, Rapoli, Pletcher, John Velasquez will be on board. Comes off a 47-2 bullet work on June 7th, right up here at Saratoga. So again, that'll be race number 7 this afternoon. Belmont at the Big A. We'll have the coverage, obviously, right here on the network. Race number 7, Menti, full brother to Fierceness. And I wanted to mention one that worth watching going forward. Of a debut win yesterday at Belmont at the Big A, a horse called Complexion for Danny Gargan. Complexion is a sibling to Jack Christopher. Jack Christopher, of course, the abbreviated 6-race career, but 5 wins that included the Alan Jerkins, the Woody Stevens, the Pat Day Mile, the Champagne. And the sibling to Jack Christopher, Complexion, yesterday debuted in race number 2 down at Belmont at the Big A and won very convincingly. I haven't seen a number come out of the race yet, but it was a good looking performance. So again, that may be one for us to keep our eyes on. This time of year, you never know. Are they super precocious? Will the rest of the class catch up? But you can get the debut efforts here, or the early win efforts here, a little bit earlier in the year, late spring, early summer, And some of them can stick around and live up to that talent a little bit later on. We'll find out more about complexion, I would think, being a Danny Gargan horse up at Saratoga in some fashion. But it was a good-looking debut effort, again, for the sibling to Jack Christopher yesterday. Belmont at the Big A, horse called Complexion. All right, I'll wrap things up for this Saturday morning. Seth Merrow in the studio. A little bit later on, we'll be back in an hour and a half or so for OTB Live for Saturday afternoon. I'm going to look at some some Monmouth and some Belmont at the Big A. Monmouth with a really nice stakes card. So we'll take a look at those two tracks, but we'll have plenty more action here. Oh, and also wanted to remind you, let me pull out my sheet here. Fan Appreciation Day today at the Lawrence Street Tavern Easy Bet in Glens Falls. Fan Appreciation Days give us our chance to say thank you to you for your patronage. There's always some food, vouchers, always a fun contest where you can win a little extra something. That's this afternoon, Saturday afternoon today, Lawrence Street Tavern Easy Bet in Glens Falls. Stop by and again, give us our chance to say thank you to you. All right, I'm going to wrap it up on this Saturday morning. Racing Across America, Seth Merrow in the studio. Thanks for joining us. Again, back in about an hour and a half or so. OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. We'll see you then. We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.